It turns out that scientists as far back as the early 1900s have been developing alternative ways to access electricity without combustion. Nikola Tesla believed he had tapped into what he called radiant energy. Many scientists believe he was accessing what's now called free energy. But before Tesla could finish the project, his financier, banker J.P. Morgan, who had a monopoly on the copper used for electrical lines, recognized how Tesla's invention could transmit electricity without wires. He then shut down Tesla's funding. Tesla's lab was burned down and he was ostracized, all for trying to implement his vision of unlimited energy for everyone. A modern-day inventor, Adam Trombly, was inspired by Tesla's work and by the possibilities of the torus. Trombly built a dynamo, a direct current generator that accessed electrical power right out of the air.
We were trying to demonstrate that by mimicking the magnetic field of a planet and rotating this device, we could actually create a dynamo that would work. And in fact, it did work, and it does work. So when we contemplate nature, when we contemplate Jupiter, or we contemplate a dynamo like the Earth rotating in space, we're basically talking about a magnet which is rotating in space. And the lines of flux of the magnet are pouring down and through in this toroidal pattern of the magnetic field. It's also expanding and contracting. It's breathing. It's taking in the energy of space literally and transforming it. Right here in this toroid, we have enough energy to transform the entire Earth. And that's not just a theoretical statement, it's literally true. To contemplate the implications of this means that every single place on Earth suddenly has power. Every single person on Earth suddenly has power. We have universal abundance.
Trombly had been invited to demonstrate one of his generators at the United Nations and the US Senate. But these events were undermined by the first Bush administration. Then the device itself was taken in a government raid. Trombly's experience isn't unique. Almost every time I found an inventor with a promising new technology in the field of free energy, he told a similar story of suppression. Inventor John Bedini began working with Tesla's theories of radiant energy decades ago and has produced an assortment of battery charging devices that generate more energy than it takes to run them. He announced that he was going to start offering them at low cost. Soon after that, he was attacked in his lab and warned not to produce the devices. For his own safety, he had to let go of marketing free energy. These are all devices from labs I personally visited.
Now,
Now, the quality of this footage is obviously poor, and I'm not expecting this to convince you. My point is that being there with these inventors, accompanied by experts, and seeing these new energy devices in operation convinced me that the technology is real. And the implications of that to me are absolutely thrilling. Canadian John Hutchison not only created some free energy batteries, but also used Tesla's theories to counter gravity, to make objects float. This could revolutionize the field of propulsion. His lab was raided and equipment was taken by police and government officials in 1978, 1989, and again in 2000. One of the scientists we were going to interview for this film was Dr. Eugene Malov, an engineer from MIT and Harvard, and editor of Infinite Energy magazine, which covers both theoretical and technological developments in the new energy field. Dr. Malov was mysteriously beaten to death in 2004. If these inventors were all hoaxers and charlatans, I wondered, why are they being suppressed so consistently and so brutally? I asked free energy inventor Adam Trombly why he thought this technology was being suppressed, and if the UFO phenomenon was related.
We've had major military people at great risk to themselves say, yes, these things are real. Why do you think the military-industrial complex doesn't want that statement to be made? Because you start thinking about what kind of technology is behind that. That's the bottom line. The suppression of UFO phenomena is hand in hand with the suppression of so-called free energy.
The energy is extracted from the fabric of the space around us, which means it cannot be metered. That is a direct threat to the single largest industry in the world, energy. It's goodbye ExxonMobil, goodbye oil, goodbye coal, goodbye linear transmission of electricity through power lines, all that gone. Unfortunately, it's someone's $200 trillion piggy bank. The proven oil and gas and coal reserves are worth north of $200 trillion. This information coming out would completely change geopolitical power more than anything since, well, in recorded human history. And it would happen in a generation.
I started to examine the breakthrough solutions, and much to my surprise, these concepts have been proven in hundreds of laboratories throughout the world, and yet they have not really seen the light of day.
Rather than smashing things together and trying to control the explosion, these new technologies rely on blending, of dancing with what naturally is. The common denominator of all the free energy devices I've seen is that they mimic in one way or another the torus energy shape. You don't have to believe in free energy technology to be concerned about the repression of ideas and inventions. I found myself thinking, what better way to justify our dependence on oil, coal, nuclear, and other dangerous and dirty technologies than to claim there are no better, cheaper alternatives? It was my beloved wife and creative partner, Kimberly, who kept bringing me back to the human implications of my scientific research.
For me, as intriguing as the torus and ETs and free energy are, the most compelling question was, would understanding these things really help alleviate human suffering in any way? And it turns out it can. So much of the pain on the planet has to do with the lack of access to energy. Can you stay warm? Can you get food and water? Can you get hospital care? All that has to do with energy access. If there is a fundamental pattern, which makes sense to me that evolution would be efficient in that way, and we can align with that pattern to create new technologies that will solve these problems, then it's worth it to me to open my mind to these socially taboo subjects.
If the new energy technologies were to be set free worldwide, the change would be profound. It would affect everybody. It would be applicable everywhere. These technologies are absolutely the most important thing that's happened in the history of the world.
Understood how to create free energy. Like I say, accessing the natural power and sources of power in the universe and turning it into usable power and warmth without cost and without, if you like, carbon dioxide. Now, the same bloody people that are saying we must do all this to save the world from carbon dioxide are the same people that have been suppressing this technology for bloody decade after decade after decade.
But what happens when you and you and you and you have a generator that would fit on maybe this much of a table, that would completely run your house with no energy bill, no pollution. Once you buy it, it costs no more than a heat pump or air conditioning unit. And you have energy for your property for as long as the machine lasts, which if it's built well could be 100 years, 50 years. Wonderful, yes? Well, not for these people. It's wonderful for humanity, for Gaia, the Earth. But here's another issue. And this will make you a little uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance.
The technology is on the engineering benches today, but most Americans and most in Congress have not had time to really look deeply at what's going on here. But I've had the benefit of 33 years of studying and becoming friends with these engineers and these scientists. This technology can be built today with technology that is not developmental to deliver any human being from any place on planet Earth to any other place in less than an hour. To deliver energy from space where you never have to plug your phone in and it trickle charges and you can use that energy over time. It can be applied to cars, to houses. The technology of Edison and Tesla that we live with in our energy environment, our paradigm today, is expensive, it's dangerous, and it's wasteful. Plug it into the wall, but yet that's what we all do because we are used to paradigms.
Who worked in the underground facilities in Nevada and Arizona, and he said that the United States forces, in cooperation with the extraterrestrials, had developed both zero-point energy and cold fusion. And these are the things people have been searching for forever. It's sort of like making gold out of lead, which I'm told they can do now too if they want to. So it's there, and even if it isn't, from what I know of the extraterrestrials, secondhand, from people who have talked to them and visited them and been abducted by them, they want us to save our planet. They would give it to us if the United States Air Force would stop shooting at them. But we've got to persuade the Americans that we don't want a world where somebody's got to master the world by armed force. We want a world where we change our priorities and get rid of these huge defense expenditures and use the money to provide food and shelter and education and clothing for people that don't have any. A different kind of world altogether than what we've had. And that they shouldn't take the extraterrestrials on for size, which they seem determined to do. But this is an interesting point. General Eisenhower said, beware of the industrial military complex. What he was really referring to was the fact that he had lost control of ET file. Nelson Rockefeller, it's an interesting name, he had hired him to work out who would run the thing. And a lot of the responsibility was turned over to private enterprise. So that the government of the United States has lost control of a whole pile of stuff that's going on out there. The President of the United States doesn't even know what's going on out there. And if he wanted to know, they would just say, Mr. President, you don't have clearance for that project. This is, what it is. But getting back to the point, either the technology exists, which I believe, or they would give it to us if we treat them like friendly neighbors and collaborators in the cosmos instead of as enemies that they were originally designated. Then there's no doubt that we could change the system in 10 years, which is about what we have to do if we change the banking system too. So we've got the money in order to be able to do it.
When they know full well that we have the technologies that if the secret space program wants to bring down technologies such as replicators that would feed people free energy, healing technologies that work off of light and sound frequency, a whole lot of different technologies that will improve the lives of people and help them live in balance with the planet. And this could be brought down, implemented with all of humanity immediately. And they don't want to bring it to the Americans and the British and then let it trickle down to the other members of the planet. They want to bring it to everyone on the planet all at the same time.
All right, let's start blending why we got Michael into the discussion here. And I'm going to ask you one question, and I want you to answer it, and then we'll open it up. Some of the most controversial stuff that you and I have talked about in the show is the idea that we don't really need a financial system once these types of technologies come out. You've often dropped the term that the Space Program Alliance uses, the Babylonian money magic system. What's so bad about money? How is the financial system a tool for control by these secret Earth government syndicates that you've been describing? How do they use money against us?
When you have money, you have debt. When you have debt, you have servitude and slavery. You have people that are the haves lending money to the have-nots. And the have-nots are the ones that end up carrying all of the burden. And that's the way that it's been set up to work from the very beginning. And we've been so highly programmed for many thousands of years to believe that you have to have this paper folded up in your pocket. People have heard me talk and they freak out. You want to take away our money. You want to move to a cashless society. Well, this is crazy. What are we going to do without money? How can you have a society without money? And they can't fathom it. They're so highly programmed they cannot fathom it.
But how is what you're saying not communism? Aren't you going to have a group of oligarchs that absorb all the wealth and then everybody gets paid the same and therefore nobody has any incentive to do anything?
Or you're using the word paid. That would denote that there's money involved. When everyone has everything that they need. I mean, if you really want to have money or gold, the replicators have the ability, you could synthesize a little bit of gold, or synthesize an old 20th century $5 or $100 bill and carry that around in your pocket if that makes you feel more secure. But you're not going to need it, because everything's going to be based off of bartering skills, people sharing their knowledge and abilities with each other as a community, and everyone's going to have what they need through these technologies. You're not going to need to work 9 to 5 to pay an electricity bill, free energy. I mean, you're not going to need to have to buy groceries.
They go back to using Uno amino matrices in the replicators.
Chiquita, mi amor.
It is their major goal is to bring what they call full disclosure to the population of the earth. And full disclosure is not just there are aliens, we've been lying to you for the last 80, 90 years. Okay, move on with your lives. The full disclosure event will be a data dump, from Edward Snowden's information and a few of these other major hacks that we've heard just a little bit about. All of this information has been decrypted and collated, handed over to the Earth Alliance and to the Secret Space Program Alliance, ready for a massive data dump at a certain point. And what they want to do is reveal all the crimes against humanity that these syndicates have done in order to prevent not just the fact that there are ETs, non-terrestrials out there, but to cover up technologies that would have changed our lives in a dramatic way and would have collapsed their corporate regimes and their Babylonian money magic system, slave system over the earth that they use to control everybody on the surface.